It's May 10th, Mother's Day, so there you go. And so happy Mother's Day to those of you. May 10th is also significant for some other reasons. A little bit of trivia. It's the 55th birthday of Paul David Hewson. Those of you familiar with him, or you don't recognize his name, his stage name is Bono. So you may have heard of Bono. And for those of you who are theological geeks, this is also Karl Barth's birthday. He was born in 1886, kind of somebody I like to read when I have plenty of time. But May 10th is also known for something else, and most of us kind of forget it. Something happened 146 years ago on May 10th, 1869, that changed our nation. Actually changed everything in our nation, and it actually changed the world. Nothing like it had ever been accomplished before. It was a huge, huge feat. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this right here. The Transcontinental Railroad. Two rail lines, one from the east and one from the west, met in northwest Utah at Promontory Summit. And they drove in that spike. That effectively shrank the United States. What used to take 6 months to get from one ocean to the other, and that is if everything went well and the weather was good, now took about 1 week. We got time zones after this. It literally changed our nation, and it changed the world. Stephen Ambrose wrote a great book about this, and you can see the subtitle, Nothing Like It in the World. If you like history, I recommend Ambrose. My wife and I listened to this book as we went on vacation in 2009. We actually started our trip from Council Bluffs, Iowa, where President Lincoln in 1863 kind of started the whole thing going. He started a lot of great construction projects while he was president. Most of them are forgotten because something else was happening while he was president. But he was a great president, and he saw in a vision for what this could do to the nation, and his vision lived on as the Transcontinental Railroad, as they were linked, May 10th, 1869. Fantastic feat. Some of us might think that the success of that organization and that endeavor was due to incredible maps. Some of us might think that the success of that endeavor was due to incredible leadership, incredible plans, or unbelievable engineers. And if we thought that, we would be wrong. Because the success of those two rail lines coming together obviously had something to do with leadership, had something to do with plans and maps and engineers. But the key to the success was not that. The key to the success was a constant vigilance to make mid-course corrections. Like almost every day, the engineers would say, okay, well, where are we at? We have to make some mid-course corrections, because they would run into mountains in reality that were more difficult, or they would run into ground that they thought they could go through, then they can't go through, or a river that was wider than they thought, and they would run in reality presented with them all kinds of things. And they would take their plans and actually throw them away. Their maps weren't GPS maps. They were the best maps of the day. But they constantly had to change what they were doing because they were faced with reality. Because their mission was driving them. Their mission, those two lines had to line up exactly where they didn't know where, but those two things had to come completely, perfectly together so they could drive that spike. And if they didn't make mid-course corrections, well, one would be off like this and another would be off like this. What might seem to be a good idea on one day could just lead them astray, and after 100 miles, oh my gosh, they are really far away. Maps were important. Plans were important. Leadership was important. But it was the diligence to make mid-course corrections so that they could stay on task that made that endeavor successful.